Today's video is going to be about meta rulings, and more specifically, tiny mistakes, big misplays that cost you your matches, and we're going to be delivering this in a quiz format. If you guys can't do it in a quiz format, I don't expect you guys to actually be able to apply this in real life during a match, and therefore people might be getting away with stuff that they shouldn't be getting away with, and of course that's going to cost you your match because of it. Alright, so only 3 of these are going to be delivered in the quiz format. The rest of them I'm just going to throw at you guys because I'm too tired to edit, and if you guys can't hear the difference in my voice, you guys can't hear my nasal sound because it is really stuffed. I'm sorry guys, it is what it is. But I'm going to throw a lot of this extra stuff at you guys just so that you guys don't make the misplay, especially when it's going to cost you your big matches. All right, you know, there's a lot of these decks maybe you guys aren't familiar with that it could, you know, these illegal plays could kill you. So that being said, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, ding that notification bell. You guys don't want to miss out, and because of these videos, I'm hoping that you guys will get your X and O's, X1s, get your tops. That's what really matters. Let's do this. Question number 1. The scenario is that the Tier Limits player has built a Time Thief Redoer with a Scarin attached to it. The turn player is holding an Ash Blossom Joyous Spring, and at some point during the turn player's turn, the Tier Limits player decides to activate the Time Thief Redoer with the intention to detach the Scarin as the material as a part of its effect to perform a fusion. The turn player decides to go, you know what, screw it, I'm going to throw an Ash Blossom on it anyway and see what happens. The opposing player goes, hey, hold up, you can't activate that Ash Blossom Joyous Spring because I don't have a spell material. Without the spell material, I can't draw a card, and therefore you can't Ash me. So you guys have 10 seconds to tell me what's wrong with this scenario, who's correct, who is not correct, and why. You guys, 10 seconds. And by the way, this timer is going to be my new tournament timer. I'm going to post, already posted an unlisted link on Twitter. You guys can use it as well as a 40-minute timer with a 30-minute overtime for you guys. And once you hit overtime, Grandpa's soul gets sucked away because that's what Pegasus did to Yugi on episode 2. And my internal clock says I think we are times up for this question, and the answer that is correct is yes, you can use Ash Blossom Joyous Spring. I've seen so many people hold on to the Ash Blossom Joyous Spring because their opponent says, oh, I'm just going to be banishing my monster. But remember, Time Thief Redoer has multiple effects depending on the material, and sure, the answer that they give you isn't actually incorrect, but it's definitely not all the information. But then it's the irrelevant information that is super relevant for this scenario because you're going to be giving them a free fusion. And with the Ash Blossom, you can block that whole fusion from occurring because if you Ash it, the Time Thief Redoer would not be able to detach any material, leaving that Scarin attached. Therefore, if there's a King of the Swamp or any sort of crazy fusion material in the graveyard, those would not be accessible without the fusion. So it's a really, really good thing that if you're holding an Ash, remember that Time Thief Redoer is something that you can Ash. The reason being is that there's no guarantee that the Time Thief Redoer wouldn't be able to draw even without the spell card. The reason being is that Chainlink 1 is Time Thief Redoer. What if you have a Chainlink 2 that is a spell card or any sort of other effect that attaches a spell onto that Time Thief Redoer? Time Thief Redoer only detaches as a part of its effect, and you only really choose the material when you hit that chain link. So, well, if they get a spell card attached by then you can definitely get the draw because you get the detached spell and the monster. So by that logic, you can always hit it because it's not guaranteed that they would not be able to draw due to the fact that you only really choose the effect during resolution. And on top of that, the other thing is a precedent ruling to this is Shaddoll Fusion. Shaddoll Fusion, you can always hit it with Ash Blossom Joyous Spring. I know people are like, oh, but there's no monsters on the field. Yeah, but what if someone chains like a quick play spell that leads to a fusion monster being put onto the field? Then what? Then, oh, do you say that, oh, but there was no fusion material on the field at the time, therefore you can't use the effect of Shaddoll Fusion to fuse from the deck? Of course not. There's something on the field on resolution, I'm going to fuse from the deck, and therefore Ash Blossom can always work on Shaddoll Fusion, which is one of the big weaknesses. That it's something that people always argue about, but hey, it is what it is. These are 2 very similar rulings now applied together. And so the reason why a lot of people kind of miss this is because people don't tell them the irrelevant effects of the Time Thief Redoer. And question number 2, we have Tier Limits versus Exorcister, another very classic matchup of the current format. Sure, a little bit more roguish, but here's how the first chain goes. The Tier Limits player activate the Merly in the graveyard that has recently hit the graveyard. Cool. And then the opposing player, the Exorcister player chains DD Crow, targeting the Merle to prevent the fusion from occurring. Don't know why they would stop that. I mean, you get a free upgrade, but hey, they're doing it anyway. And what's happening here is the DD Crow banishes the Merle. The Merle it could not fuse because it needs to use herself as material. Okay. However, the Exorcister player decides to go, hey, hold on a second, because something got removed from the field, I'm going to activate the Martha on the field. And then the Tearlaments player says, hey, you can't really do that. All your Exorcisters state that, hey, they have to use the opponents. The opponents have to remove something from the graveyard themselves to get the effect, and therefore pulls out 2 cards out of their graveyards, being the Sophia and the Elise. And yeah, both of them do say that they need to use the opponent's cards. So using that kind of information, you guys determine what is wrong with this current scenario. You guys have 10 seconds. This is pretty basic. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm pretty sure I'm off timing key, but the answer is all you gotta do is pick up Martha and read Martha. Of all the Exorcister, she is probably the best one by far, not only because she tethers another monster out and she can special summon herself out with just Xyz monster on the field. The best part about her is she kind of ignores that the opponent has to do something out of the graveyard to get the Xyz effect of Martha, because she just cares if something gets removed from the graveyard. So even if you DD Crow yourself, and well, not yourself, but you use DD Crow yourself onto your opponent's card, you can activate the Martha that you control. It's because she is different. This is a read the card scenario. I would feel super sus. Okay, if someone pulls out 2 cards out of the graveyard, like what happened in this particular scenario, this is very, very sus, because I feel like this player knows that the other 2 cards would agree with him rather than picking up the Martha. This is something you would have to pick up as, like, if you're a judge on this, you would probably have to pick this up, and you would keep a close eye on this player later in the tournament because of that particular action. Because it is very sketchy to not just pick up the Martha and read it, and to pick up 2 things that would only agree with your statement. It's really cheesy. It's also very sus. It's also very misleading, and it could just intentionally mislead the game state. And keep that in mind and probably call a judge on this player. So in this particular scenario, Sprite versus Tearlaments, and it is currently Tearlaments' turn, and they normal summon out the Merle. Since it was a normal summon, when they activate the effect of Merle to mill 3 cards, we're going to see a totally awesome activated in order to negate that Merle. However, the Tearlaments player was ready for it and chains a Ghost Belt and Haunted Mansion to negate that totally awesome. The players now begin to argue at this point, saying, hey, you can't do that. Nothing in Totally Awesome's card text would basically satisfy the activation of the Ghost Belt and Haunted Mansion. So who's actually correct in this scenario? Who made a misplay? Who made an illegal play? Did an illegal play even occur? You guys have 10 seconds to figure that out. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sure, you can call a judge, and the judge is probably going to tell you in this particular scenario where the Totally Awesome is activated in response to a monster or a pendulum scale for that matter, it will be able to get hit by a Ghost Spell. The reason being is that whenever it gets hit by a Ghost Spell, what happens is that the monster would hit the graveyard and then it would be set onto the field. That being set onto the field is typically considered as a special summon, and because it is considered as a special summon of sorts, therefore it can be negated by Ghost Spell, because Ghost Spell's definition, if someone tries to special summon out of the graveyard, then Ghost Spell would be able to negate the activation of said card, and in that case it would be the Totally Awesome. So the entirety of Totally Awesome's effect would be negated. Is that the correct play? I don't know. Typically in a board like this, you're probably gonna see a Sprite Elf. Maybe not letting that Totally Awesome revive is the better play overall, But that's just me, alright? You know, you do you. Maybe you have other cards. Right now, we're talking about simplified game states because I didn't want to put any more noise onto the scenario, but this is what it is. Remember, if it is a monster or a pendulum scale activation, not like pendulum scale effect, when they activate the pendulum scale, because it's not typically on the field, or technically on the field, when they activate it, so when it gets destroyed, it doesn't go to the extra deck, it goes into the graveyard. And because it goes to the graveyard, Totally Awesome could set the card onto the field. If it's a monster, it would set it face down onto the field, and therefore that's considered as a special summon. So there you have it. That's the precedent case, and there's probably another monster in the future coming out that's also an Xyz monster that kind of also deals with setting cards out of the graveyard if it's a spell or trap or a monster. So keep in mind the wording, and maybe you'll get a new wording for Totally Awesome as well. And before I give you guys any more misplays that you guys have to catch, make sure you guys check out MST.TV for some sleeves, over sleeves that protect your foil sleeves, whatever sleeves that you guys have. Check out MST.TV for some sleeve goodies, as well as mats. And if you want to sort your collection, we've got box dividers. Now, I just want to give you guys a quick heads up. We are going to be doing some secret launches on stuff. Well, these are like soft launches for one sleeve product and one box divider product. These are brand new things that I have not shown anyone, but these are some things I'm super excited about. So make sure you guys check out MSTmerch.com. I'm not gonna tell you when they're gonna be launching. You might see like maybe a quick tweet or something, but they're gonna have a big launch once we get to time to film it. So check out MSTmerch.com. Thank you guys for your support, and let's get back to it. So tiny mistake number 4 here, I'm just going to deliver it to you guys, is related to MathMax. This little mistake is actually a very big misplay. Remember that if anyone activates MathMax Circular, they can only attack with one monster. I've seen people use Dark Wheel No More and try to break a sprite board with a bunch of tiny monsters, and that's incorrect because you can't do that. I've seen people just build a bunch of monsters and try to attack everything. That's a very big misplay. Catch that, make sure that they know that, oh, they're in their battle phase, and now you have a huge board that's still alive and they're gonna get punished for it. That's what you have to do. So remember, if they activate Circular, they can only attack with one monster. Pretty big one, to be honest, because that's how they win, but that's also one of the biggest restrictions. And number 2, this is a funny one. This is another one that leads to, this is why you don't use simulators as references to rulings. This one is luckily already fixed now, but a lot of people, when they perform their fusions with Tearlaments, they don't reveal the card in their hand when they perform the fusion, leading to a lot of PE minors. These PE minors are all preventable, but they like say, oh, but the simulator didn't show it, so I'm guessing I don't need to show it. I'm like, this is private information. Like when I activate Polya, I just send them where they need to go. Well, when you contact fuse with a Gladiator Beast, you reveal the 2 set monsters. Say you have set cards that you're doing with the contact fuse. You reveal the 2 cards before you put it back into the deck. Luckily, in this case, why I would call it a PE minor, procedural error minor, versus a PE major. It would be a PE major if you shuffle the deck, but remember, Tearlament's monster, when they perform their fusion, they go to the bottom of the deck. So both cards should be known, or 3 cards should be known if you use 3 material, and you can take those 3 cards and reveal them then. And then you can check if it's legal or not. If it's illegal, oh, well then, you're in a lot of more trouble than just a little PE minor. Let's just say that. So keep in mind that when you do the fusion, and the reason why this came out is because the simulator, during the Tearlaments release, it didn't reveal the card that you're fusing from hand. It just says question mark, question mark, question mark. It highlighted the card, never revealed it, and it just went to the bottom of the deck, and you just have to pray that it was legal. No, you do have to show the material, all right, guys, just so that it is legal and fair, because your opponent is not allowed to check the bottom of your deck. That's private knowledge. But to confirm that the game state is legal, you would have to technically show that particular card. Very important. And finally, ruling number 3, another common misplay, is that a lot of people forget that Sprite Elf prevents the targeting of whatever it points to. This leads to a lot of misplayed infinite impermanence. Not just impermanence, I think Chalice and stuff like that, even Valor to some degree. This actually came up, especially when the person playing the Totally Awesome, rather than, you know, sending the Toad away, they send the Aqua Monster from the hand into the graveyard, basically dodging a call by the grave, and the player attempts to activate Imperm, and when they activated that Imperm from their hand, or they activated that Chalice, whatever it may be, they attempt to target the toad, and then they're like, dude, Sprite Elf is on the field and it's pointing to the totally awesome, therefore you can't negate it. It's layered protection, baby, and this is where, because they attempted to do an illegal target, they have to basically redo the entire play. Remember, if your attempted target is also illegal, the play rewinds back to the point of the activation of the card. You don't force someone to resolve a card. That's all I got for this video, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, learned about these very simple, small mistakes, but these are pretty big misplays when it comes to the long run, because they definitely have high impacts on game states. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you guys hit that subscribe button, ding that notification bell. Stay tuned for this week and this upcoming next week's video, where we dive pretty deep into Tactical Masters. All right, so I'll see you guys in the next one.